Good evening. 1 week ago, March 4th, a day that will go down in our community's history. A quiet rain mixed with freezing temperatures turned into a violent act of Mother Nature. An act of Mother Nature we will not soon forget. The rain and those freezing temperatures created an ice storm that brought our city, our towns, and our neighborhoods to a halt. We learned a lot about ourselves. We learned to appreciate things we may have taken for granted, things we thought we never would have missed. We became closer with our neighbors, and sometimes used our ingenuity to generate our own pedal power. The pictures we gathered over the past 7 days are ones we may never see the likes of again in our lifetime. And because many spent the last 7 days without power, we thought we'd show you those pictures, the highlights of the past 7 days, highlights of a crisis that continues tonight, highlights of the first week an ice storm changed our lives. We begin with Monday, day 1, a rude awakening. We now know over 303,000 utility customers were without power.
Ice storms are beautiful to look at, but deceptively dangerous. About half of us are without power in our homes. Many roads are officially closed, and many that aren't are blocked by downed trees or wires or both. Without power, stoplights don't work, making intersections dangerous.
My folks had pictures of when I was this big of an ice storm like this, but I guess my first impression is I'm a little scared because of our big tree behind the house. We're just afraid that that's going to go on the house.
Overnight, the city took on an eerie look, not just what you saw, but the sound of the ice and the cracking limbs. The early risers were the trailblazers. Drivers on the road before sunrise were the first to weave their way around the downed trees and under wires. The first up and at 'em were the first to see the devastation.
Oh, it looks pretty bad. It looks pretty bad. It looks like a hurricane almost. It looks almost like a hurricane.
I come from California, and boy, you got a mess out there. Trees, wires, limbs all over the place, trees falling here, trees falling. Man, I'm getting out of here.
Police were out marking the way. Power crews were beginning a job that will last for days. And city firefighters were trying to remember the last time an ice storm did all this.
One guy said 1959 was bad.
With daylight, the damage done was plain to see. Cars imprisoned by downed trees. Some cars were crushed. Yards are a mess. Curiosity seekers are out, but be warned of the hazards. Downed wires are hard to see, and branches are still falling under the weight of the ice. Even in the city, pedestrians face hazards. Watch the ice falling from Lincoln Tower this morning. It is pretty to look at, but don't be deceived. This storm packed a punch.
It started early and it started fierce. Hours of pummeling, freezing rain clinging to the trees, encasing them in icy beauty. But emergency crews knew it was trouble.
House fire, this is our biggest fear right now. You know, because how the heck do you get in there?
Daylight brought evidence of the storm's destruction. Many didn't even have to look outside to find out. The flip of a switch told tens of thousands this morning the power was out.
A lot of tree limbs down. Some poles are even coming down now. We estimate that even when the storm ends, it'll probably be a good 24, maybe 36 hours before we can get everything cleaned up.
The piercing crack of falling tree limbs would echo hundreds of times throughout the day.
The ice storm froze everything in sight, ripped down trees and power lines.
This is involving 4 poles down through here, 2 out on the road here and 2 back in there.
The storm destroyed 60 of Tim Swain's 80 trees, many of which were 150 years old.
Nothing to do, act to God. You know, you take care of your place, and this happens, we'll just try to salvage what we can.
It's not easy being patient when you're cold and in the dark, but RG&E says this is a situation that demands patience. They say eventually a crew just like this one will be on your street to get you out of the dark. But that could be the end of the week. They suggest it might be wise for people to find someplace else to stay.
Peg Westfall's house had survived the night, but this limb let go about 11:30 this morning, landing right on her porch roof.
All I can think of is the house is gone. You know? That's the way it sounds.
The ice also brought down all of Niagara Mohawk's main transmission lines, knocking out 26 substations in the area, leaving more than 60,000 NYMO customers in the dark.
It couldn't be much worse. Everything that we have is down. We have no customers in power right now.
Niagara Mohawk has brought in 120 extra crews to do the repairs, but it could be several days before all of Niagara Mohawk's customers are back online. Tree crews also work throughout the day. Meanwhile, Avon firefighters were called away from basement pumping to a fire in the village hall. Officials say the village's emergency generator was not properly installed and started the fire. For Livingston County residents, this was a day to cope. People lined up patiently to get into the Avon Big M. A portable generator supplied the power for a single cash register. For now, people were stocking up, unsure of how long it would be before life got back to normal.
And as darkness fell that very first night, we realized just how truly in the dark we were.
This RG&E work crew, like the many others working tonight, had its hands full trying to reconnect as many disconnected homes as possible. As workers struggled to reinstall the power lines, the biggest problem they face at this point is working in the dark. And even though the ice storm hit our area about 20 hours ago, workers still say they haven't made much of a dent at all in their massive workload. In fact, we may have seen just the tip of the iceberg.
And because many realized it was just the tip of that iceberg, they needed a place to stay warm.
Well, I don't think anybody expected anything this large.
It is the unexpected that by nightfall has turned area schools into temporary homes. Maureen Lee found all the comforts of home for herself and her 2 children after first trying to make a go of it on her own.
I tried to get the candles and everything, but we had no heat, and we got like an electrical stove, so we couldn't do anything.
Rose Del Vecchio tells a similar story.
It was freezing. It was just freezing. I was under blankets. I had 4 blankets over me. You know, it was just awful. I couldn't bear it.
At another shelter set up at Monroe Community College, those who've been hardest hit are finding what any other night they would have taken for granted, a hot meal and a warm place to sleep.
Well, I got home from work and it was really cold, and I just looked at the wife and says, that's it, pack everything up, we're going to MCC. I found out that the Red Cross has got a place for us to stay.
Keeping up with the supplies, especially the cots and blankets, has been a non-stop job for the Red Cross. These cots here are coming from Syracuse, Elmira, and as far away as Erie, Pennsylvania, and still, they are not enough.
We normally, in a disaster operation, you would set up 1, 2, 3 shelters, and we'd have more than enough cots. But we do have our neighbors to the east and to the west, and also our national organization, and that's where the 2,000 cots are coming from tomorrow.
Ham radio operators at each shelter provide the critical link for getting the supplies to those in need.
We received 15 cots. We need 18 more cots. We have a total of 33 people here right now.
And the system is working well for the hundreds who otherwise would have no other place to turn.
But those who chose to stay in their darkened homes flocked to the stores for the comforts of home.
At first glance, it looked like the Wegmans we all know, but a stroll down the bread aisle told a story of short supply. There were no loaves to buy, barely any bananas, and they were fresh out of flashlights. For Janet Gaines, even life in a third world country seemed more plentiful.
The thing that gets me is I just came back from a trip to Africa, and we have less here than I had when I was in a small village near Dakar, Senegal. So it's a rather interesting contrast.
Hundreds of gallons of milk once sat here. Now this sign is the only thing with the word M-I-L-K on it. It has made people like Sean Mulvey improvise.
The coffee mate should help me, and maybe I can sneak some by the baby for breakfast tomorrow in her cereal. And that's probably preferable to using some heavy cream.
With juice for the family and juice for the flashlight, the Reverend Enoch Smith and son Ian were ready to head home. The trip through the store was the easy part. Getting here required some doing.
I have a CB radio, so I asked somebody over the radio where was Wegmans open, and they gave me the location. So we drove from Gates to here to get the items we needed for.
Needs are a relative thing. Just ask twins, Melinda and Marianne, with a quarter keg of beer and a bag of Doritos.
Well, we live off campus, and our heat and our electricity is off, so we're going to campus to party and spend the night.
See, it doesn't have to be all that bad. For Melinda and Marianne, this shopping trip fit the bill.
And I would open the door, I said, oh my God, I don't believe this.
It's sad because it's, you know, it was a nice tree.
What's going on in this neighborhood?
Well, we just all kind of help each other the best we can.
Tuesday, March 5th, day 2, the meltdown. Just under 165,000 utility customers without power.
As the sun began its work, falling ice was everywhere. Trees, hundreds of them bending, breaking under the weight. Power lines and downed electrical transformers entombed in layers of ice, sagging under the weight as ice slowly melts. And as the drops melted off of surfaces, sheets of ice gave way. Downtown, crews went to work erecting barriers to protect pedestrians from the falling ice. In spite of it all, many residents stood by in awe, admiring Mother Nature's handiwork.
And our city is really being changed with all the landscaping that's going on right now.
On the ground, the damage was frightening. Entire neighborhoods transformed into desolate ruin by fallen trees. And back on the ground, just moments ago, Fry had this to say.
The sun came out today, but I think that we still have a crisis and that we need to exercise caution. What we're talking about now is a press release that you now have. In it, it states that we will be continuing with the state of emergency for another day.
Even as many residents spend another night with no electricity or heat, and others work to restore order, others seem determined to try and find some normalcy, amid what for many is the unbelievable.
A bird's eye view of the ice. This is what the county executive saw as he took a helicopter ride this morning surveying the damage. With so many people still without power, the county and the city will extend the state of emergency.
It's not something that says you cannot go on the street. On the other hand, we do want to discourage people from going on the street until we get things further along and we can be sure that we're going to be able to wrap this up.
Power crews are getting help from others around the state. Some are working on the big transmission lines that affect thousands. Others are fixing the wires that have fallen in backyards.
Given what I saw with the flight with Tom, I would believe that our restoration will be moving at a fairly brisk pace. Although, again, I will tell you that it's going to be a fairly laborious thing to go to every house and restore the service that's been damaged.
And today, the ice began to fall. Temperatures climbed above freezing, allowing the ice to slip from the wires and branches it had coated for better than a day.
The pieces of ice falling from these trees right here are relatively light, but you really have to watch where you walk today, or you are likely to get hit in the head with a pretty good-sized chunk of ice.
There was no getting out of the way of this falling object. Sam McEwen's remodeling project was almost done when the ice uprooted this tree the other night and made some more work for the carpenters.
Actually, I didn't know it till the next morning. I heard the boom, and I said, gee, it's thundering out there, too, you know. The next morning, everybody was standing around, the neighbor next door and over here, and my daughter was there ringing the bell. She climbed up in the tree, between the tree to ring the bell. And I would open the door. I said, oh, my God, I don't believe this.
Elsewhere around town today, the melting ice caused some minor flooding, but the flood watches have been canceled. Yards are still a mess, though, and neighbors are getting together to chat about the cleanup job ahead and the ice storm none of them will forget.
And as the ice melted, we realized the treasures we had lost and the greenery we will miss.
Perhaps the most striking reminder of the storm is the loss of limbs. Trees that have taken tens of years to grow were scarred or destroyed in a few violent hours. Their branches lost the battle to literally tons of clinging ice and gravity. Tree experts surveying the aftermath say the storm has permanently changed the way our area looks.
I would say in just the greenery around Rochester, I think a third of it will be gone.
To many residents, it's like losing part of their home.
It's sad because it's, you know, it was a nice tree.
I remember when we moved in that it was not taller than the garage, so to watch it grow 2/3 the size it was when we came in is an interesting process, sad process to see it come down.
One thing that's kept residents in this city neighborhood is its tree-lined streets. But now that the storm has passed, those streets are tree-littered.
You get attached to them even though you kind of feel a little pang when you have an older home and mature trees and all of that kind of thing. I think it gives you a feeling of, I don't know, comfortableness.
This summer, the neighborhood will be a different place without the majestic canopy of leaves and branches that once shaded the lawns and street. Though the storm has passed, reminders of its fury will live on.
The ice melted, but we were still in need of shelter and hot food.
I tell ya.
I'm just gonna put them on there.
This hot breakfast is a welcome sight for those who stayed the night, though obviously it isn't quite the taste of home.
Oh, I got a good couple pancakes wherever they are.
We don't have pancakes. This is all we have today.
The smell of hot food rouses some of the visitors from their makeshift beds. Just over 200 people are staying here because they don't have any power or heat.
I'm here with my wife and my 5 kids. With no power and no utilities for the next few days, we don't have much of a choice but to remain.
This young mother is also stranded with her 3-month-old baby. She's grateful to have a warm place to stay, but still, it's tough.
I had a very long night. He was up most of the time. He's not home in his crib, so he's crying a lot.
Sharita, what kind of night did you have here last night?
A terrible night.
How come?
Because I had a dream that all these trees fell on my house and crushed all my new clothes for my birthday, and I never got to wear them before.
But even kids are learning how to make do, and everywhere you look there are touches of home. This woman passes the time by playing solitaire. These folks are keeping busy by watching themselves on TV.
Set up at Monroe Community College, those who've been...
Some of these visitors may be leaving today if their power is back, but the Red Cross is expected to keep its shelters running at least one more day.
We'll be open all day long, taking care of those folks that still need to come in.
A comforting thought in these trying times.
Amidst the trying times, we found beauty not only in the ice, but within ourselves and within our neighbors.
This entire neighborhood has been kept in the dark. The storm that ripped through the area knocked power out and has yet to be restored. The McIntyres are getting by the best way they can.
We've been burning our candles, heating with a kerosene heater, doing coffee in a saucepan.
But in the Strawberry Hill neighborhood, some of the residents are beginning to see the light, thanks to their neighbors. You see, half of the street has electricity. The other half is still without it. So the side with lights runs an electric cord from their homes to the neighbors across the street who don't have power.
At least we have the freezer and we have the sump pump running, and we're not losing the food, and the basement isn't flooding, and the people across the street, the Perez's, have just been fantastic. I can't say enough.
Him and his 2 sons were in the basement trying to get all the water out of the basement. So my wife says, well, why don't we just hook up and try to help them out.
Isn't this adding to your bill?
Yeah, sure it is. But what are neighbors for?
And now the act of neighborliness has spread. In fact, several neighbors in the division are stringing cords across the road.
Since the rain and the snow has slowed down and stuff, we haven't used the sump pump, we use the light.
What's going on in this neighborhood?
Well, we just all kind of help each other the best we can.
Oh, we had to drive around for a good 10 minutes to find someplace to get a cup of coffee.
And we can't find a room to stay tonight, so we're going to have to drive back through roads we're not supposed to be on.
I'm clever. Let's put it that way.
Wednesday, March 6th, day 3, an all-out push for power, with 132,000 utility customers still in the dark.
Tree crews cleared branches away from power lines so line crews could do their job, removing fallen lines from our backyards and hooking them back onto utility poles.
We're making good progress today. We are finding a lot of limbs down all over. Our crews are calling back and saying this is worse than what we thought in some areas.
The heavy tree damage is slowing things down despite the fact that the number of work crews is steadily increasing. Many of these workers are imports from around the state and up and down the East Coast. Meantime, some neighborhoods are going on their third day without power. In Penfield, Tom and Seal Brook are somehow getting by. Tom reads his paper bundled up. Seal cleans out her now defrosted refrigerator.
We're coping. We're not enjoying it too much, but we realize the extent of the damage and just have to be patient, I guess, and put up with it till we get some power.
Many crews were working tremendously hard to get that power back on, but we found one state crew from out of town working a little less than diligently.
This state transportation department crew was on the job today, but at times it was hard to tell how much was being accomplished. The crew working along Lake Avenue had 3 dump trucks, but only one was being used to carry away brush. The other 2 didn't do much. The green city truck simply sat with its lights blinking. It still had the salt spreader in the back and couldn't be used for much. The state crew used its other truck to hold its tools and saws. The crew filled its one dump truck 3 times in the hour we watched. Each time, 5 men climbed into the truck to take the brush to the dump site. But in the meantime, the other 5 simply stood around, some smoking, while the truck was gone. At 2 p.m., the tool truck left for a break, a long one. We followed as the truck drove north to Charlotte, turned around in a 7-Eleven, and then headed south. It stopped at a McDonald's that was closed. The journey then continued toward downtown. 40 minutes after it left the job site, the truck stopped at 4 Corners. About 10 minutes later, 3 workers returned with coffee. They appeared to have time, so we asked, how's business?
Darn good. Darn good. There's lots of it down there.
Yeah? How come for the last 40 minutes you guys been driving around?
Driving around where?
Almost 20 minutes after the truck stopped, the crew chief came back. He told us the break started 10 minutes ago.
Well, we had to drive around for a good 10 minutes to find someplace to get a cup of coffee. We kind of thought people would bring us out some coffee on the job, but nobody's done anything citywide here, you know.
More than an hour after it left on break, the crew then headed back to the job site.
As crews went back to work, we searched for some room at the inns.
Rochester Super 8 Motel, may I help you? Tired of hearing that word. Right now we are booked off.
Telephones have been ringing off the hook at local hotels, and those asking about room availability have all been given the standard reply. For those persistent souls that have tried going to hotels door to door, they've all been turned away.
And we can't find a room to stay tonight, so we're going to have to drive back through roads we're not supposed to be on, I guess.
It's just been very hectic. I think the hardest thing has been turning people away and knowing that we don't even have a place to recommend to them.
Dave, Bradley, and Max are among the lucky ones. They've been staying at a motel since power first went out.
It's very hard. It's harder to find someplace that'll take vicious, ferocious animals like this. But no, I'm glad we found a room because it beats freezing.
Thursday, March 7th, day 4. Tens of thousands still without power. Tens of thousands losing their patience. Over 86,000 to be exact.
Many residents are living on the edge, close to reaching their breaking point as life without electricity and heat drags on. Blowing winds and frigid temperatures are adding insult to injury. Homes, already turned dangerously cold as a result of not having power, will get even colder tonight. This is expected to be the coldest night on tap since the ice storm.
It's appropriate for the elderly and for families that have infants to really seek a warmer place to be sleeping tonight.
Everyone, 54 people in all, have left this senior citizens complex to stay with family or at a shelter. Everyone except Patricia Roy. She spends her days knitting. She will light candles tonight and be in bed by 8. She will not leave her home.
It hasn't been any colder than this all winter, so why would I leave?
But many people have gone to shelters, and as the power outages continue, these will indeed be the times that try men and women's souls.
I think we've all reached our breaking point. Everybody's getting on everybody's nerves. The kids are at each other's throats. We're ready to shoot everybody, I guess, more or less. Everybody is right at the end of their ropes.
And as those without heat lose their patience, those working to restore power have to battle the elements.
Stormy weather today didn't help work crews with their battle to get the power on. Brutal winds and heavy snowfall kept this worker bundled for the worst as he repaired a main circuit on West Henrietta Road. The wind made it tough for work crews who are worried the weather and wind will cause more problems with already weakened tree limbs.
Any limb that's broken already and it's just hanging on top of a tree or something and it's just hanging there, the wind could knock it down back on the wires we just put back up. And then what happens in effect is everything goes back out again.
In Fairport, dangerous live wires on the ground sizzle as they smoke. The poles they were once attached to, now ripped out of the ground. And one worker who continues to free tree limbs off live wires has some bad news to share.
I'll be honest with you, it's bad. And I can tell you right now, some people aren't going to have electricity for 2 weeks.
Until all is restored to normal, crews will continue to battle the weather that makes the cleanup process even more difficult.
And as the storm aftermath became more difficult to live with, some of us used some quick thinking and ingenuity.
Under the glow of a Coleman lantern, Bob Fess pedals for power. By pedaling his exercise bike, Bob fuels the electric fan that distributes gas heat throughout his house. It's an idea he picked up at a science fair.
And I thought, someday I'm going to do it. And then I just put it on the back burner like you do some of them, and now the occasion really came up.
The occasion was the ice storm that robbed his neighborhood of power. But the mindset for coming up with the invention was always there.
I'm clever. Let's put it that way. I look at a can opener and I'd say, well, I can use that for something rather than a can opener. And I'm very good at stealing other people's ideas, too, you know.
Bob pedals for about 2 hours a day, but the exercise is no sweat for him. He is 61 years old and in fine shape. The important thing is staying warm.
All I know is it enables me to stay in my home, and there's nothing like sleeping in your own bed.
As we faced a third night in the dark and extra bitter cold, we found those who needed more help and families who found a new way of living.
There are roughly a dozen emergency shelters set up around the area. Residents have fled cold, dark homes to be here, where they can get food and a warm place to sleep. The Red Cross is housing close to 2,000 people and is prepared to take in more. But what do you do if you are unable to get around, if you are sick, on medication, need medical help? You do what 85-year-old Ellen Williams has done. Ellen lives in Webster with her daughter. She suffers from crippling arthritis and has an inoperable tumor. Since Sunday, they have had no heat or electricity. The cold finally became too much. Medical Mobile Services picked her up and took her to Monroe Community Hospital's emergency medical shelter. Why did you stay in the house so long?
I guess I was stubborn. We didn't really hear about a place like this till today.
When she would have to have the blanket off and that, you know, to change her clothes and that, it was quite cold for her.
There are 72 beds set up at the shelter. Many of the residents are elderly, but not all. Some are younger, but are confined to wheelchairs. Others are taking medication and must be monitored. They are those who cannot care for themselves, who need the help of others, heat and lights to stay healthy.
Because of electricity, no electricity, there's always a danger of falls injuries, accidents at home, and those type of things.
This is really something very nice. A lot different than I thought it would be.
Being in their Winnebago is the only way they can stay warm. Their house, like many others, doesn't have any heat.
It started out being fun, then it was different. All that's gone.
It was a challenge.
Now we're down to reality. Let's get it all back.
But until that happens, the Camerons are enjoying some of the comforts of home.
How come?
They watch their battery-operated television, get snacks out of the camper's refrigerator, and relax in relative warmth.
It's something new to me. I'm not used to it, but it's been better than living in the house.
Staying with the Camerons is this German exchange student who, believe it or not, is finding humor in the whole situation.
I mean, it's funny to see the American people without their comfort, without their TV and everything.
Meantime, a drive through the neighborhood shows an eerily darkened street where behind closed doors, people are trying to stay warm on this bitter cold night. In one of the houses, a family huddles in one room around a tiny space heater fueled by their generator. How about keeping warm? How you doing that?
We haven't. The old-fashioned way. Hug a lot. A lot of clothes.
This family is facing a grim situation with a sense of humor. As they say, things could be worse. At least they've got each other.
We are working as diligent as we possibly can, and we will have them back in service.
That's it. This is enough. We've had it. You know, give us something.
Friday, March 8th, day 5, a visitor bringing aid, visiting an area with over 57,000 utility customers still without power.
The governor arrived in town late this morning, and after a quick update on the area's condition from local leaders, he was off to see for himself the devastation that has hit this area. This letter from the governor was sent off to President Bush, saying he plans to ask for a federal disaster declaration. Today's trip, the governor said, was to help him make a stronger case for that declaration. Cuomo never got out of the van, instead choosing to inspect the damages while on the road. He didn't make his first stop at the Old Bells Market at Clinton and Upper Falls, where county and state crews have been taking fallen tree limbs. When speaking with reporters, the governor lashed out against the idea that state aid to this area may be hard to come by in light of New York's financial crisis.
Even with our huge fiscal challenge, and it's the largest we've ever faced, $6 billion, we still have $50 billion. And in $50 billion, if you don't have the common sense to find a way to help people who are in really desperate trouble, who are out of their houses, who are living in shelters, who need light, who need power, who may need food, who need life support equipment for a hospital, you don't ask whether you can afford that.
The governor's next stop was at the Red Cross shelter set up at Monroe Community College. And as usual, Cuomo was surrounded by a huge crowd. But on his way in, he did take some time to speak with some MCC students. He was soon given a tour of the shelter and introduced to some of its residents. Most of the governor's time here at the shelter was not spent with officials, but rather with the people who've needed the shelter for the past few days. Cuomo asked many of the residents what it was like to be forced out of their homes for the past few days, and when they thought they would return. After his tour, the governor made this brief assessment of how this area is doing.
Rochester is always pretty good at managing things. It's a well-educated, strong community, and it's handling this very, very well indeed.
Whether we were handling it well or not is still to be seen. And besides power, people wanted their phone service back as well.
Any other day, you'd find accountant Rich Glickman sitting in a nice warm office at Rochester Telephone. But today, we found him out in the cold, alongside a Rochester Telephone crew, doing what he can to help restore phone service.
Instead of having two of the usual guys that do this from installation and repair, I get to help, and that it cuts almost the time almost in half.
Rich is one of 70 management employees at Rochester Tel who volunteered to leave his nice warm office to help phone crews restore service.
I apologize that we're not there yet, but we'll get to you eventually.
Here on this table is just a fraction of the work that Rochester telephone crews must get done. These are trouble reports. This particular pile is for Genesee Street. All of the homes listed on these cards do not have phone service.
We are working as diligent as we possibly can, and we will have them back in service.
When your phone will be working again is a question Rochester Tel is not prepared to answer. They say they're working on it with 3 times the manpower they usually have, and they urge people to be patient. And if you're one of the lucky ones who has a working phone, Rochester Tel urges you to share it with your neighbors.
Saturday, March 9th, day 6. Thousands face a weekend without electricity. 37,500.
These electric company workers are making progress nearly a week after the devastating ice storm.
Okay, we're going to go to one more job and we'll meet you over there.
This crew is getting its instructions from headquarters before going on to the next stop. And even though crews are making steady progress, the list of calls just never seems to end.
What these yellow ones are priority jobs. We have to do these first.
Carl Busak and the neighbors on his block will be getting their power back today. Carl wanted to see for himself what work crews were doing. But in spite of the delay in getting to his house, he still thinks the workers are doing a good job.
They're doing the best they can under the circumstances. What do you want?
These workers here from Rockland County have been working on this block all morning, and from what they've seen, the wires are in pretty good shape.
Tree damage. All the trees just ripping down. It's nothing that can't be fixed.
Just takes time. Just takes time.
Now all that's left for this block is for workers to push in the fuse. And with a click and a small spark, power is restored to residents on Pinnacle Road.
There's the VCR. All right.
And that means people on this block, like the Floral family, can go back to life as it was before the storm.
We can walk around without the candles. We don't have to keep the door shut and keep the kids from jumping around and knocking over the heater. We can clean out the refrigerator and start over.
And starting over is what the electric company crews will be doing as they move on to the next block on their seemingly unending list.
And as the unending power outage stretched into day 6, concerns over the elderly in the cold grew stronger.
It was a working Saturday for a couple dozen city property inspectors. But today, instead of inspecting property, they were checking in on some of the people who might need the most help in an emergency like this, the city's elderly. Claire Illingworth and Donna Marion visited upwards of 60 households today. They found many residents were staying somewhere else, others who were fine, and others who needed help.
Do you need any assistance?
No, all I need is bread and milk, that's all. I almost froze.
No power, huh?
Yeah. Well, see, the branch came directly down, and I was calling RG&E at the time.
You get to a house and the people are so appreciative that you're there, and you feel, that they're really coping very well.
The city hopes to reach 3,000 lower-income senior citizens by the end of tomorrow.
Sunday, March 10th, day 7. Now just under a week without power, a week full of frustration. There are still 29,500 utility customers doing without.
That's it. This is enough. We've had it.
Enough is enough. That's what people like Madeline Chin and her fiancé are saying. Warmed by a kerosene heater, the two play backgammon. But day 7 without power is no longer a game.
Half of the complex is on, the other half isn't. We see the RG&E guys coming, looking, scratching their heads, and then walking away. And we're like, excuse me, at least say something to the people that's here.
Restaurant owner Fred Rattano is also frustrated with the pace of RG&E's power push. His customers crowd this candlelit bar for companionship, but the tables are empty with nothing to serve. But this homeowner in Greece has a more philosophical attitude about the whole situation. RG&E still hasn't picked up the downed wire in Vi Kenzer's front yard, but still she understands.
Well, I'm not alone. This isn't a situation that anybody wanted or that anybody could totally plan on. And I feel that the RG&E guys really are out there doing the best that they can.
One sign of support for the utility company as the frustration level mounts, heading into another week without power.
A week without power. Difficult for many. But for those who work the earth, the storm aftermath has been devastating.
Gerald Beckins is a farmer who is proud of the sour cherry trees he planted 20 years ago. But since the ice storm hit, a large part of his farming history has been destroyed.
I came out of the house the first thing in the morning. I stood on my back porch, and I just could hear crash, crash, crash. Constantly, trees tumbling.
Constant crashing that wiped out 50% of his sour cherry trees.
I feel like somebody took 20 years out from under me. So it's kind of choking at times, because at my age, if I plant them to get them back here, I'm going to be an old man.
At the Beckins farm, the past several years have been a tough market for cherries, and now tough decisions are being made as to whether the Beckins farm can continue.
There's no insurance on this particular part. It's we can get crop insurance, but not tree insurance, and this is going to be 100% total loss to me.
It is the older, more productive trees that were destroyed from the ice storm. And for Gerald Beckins, that is a loss of 5,000 trees and $200,000. Almost 1 week after the storm, the sun is shining through the split trees and fallen branches, giving an even clearer picture of the devastation.
Familiar phrases always seem to surface in a crisis. The best of times, the worst of times. For every cloud, there's a silver lining. You know them all. And yet, above and beneath the ice that immobilized the greater Rochester area last week, there was and still is some beauty to be found. Families without TV and light playing parlor games. Relatives brought together in a common house with heat or phone service. Once we adjusted, newfound courtesies on the road as we learned to let the other guy proceed through the intersection. Neighbors who hardly talk may be together tonight as they shared generators to run sump pumps and furnaces. One neighbor who got power back came to my door to offer to let me plug in with an extension cord. Thousands are still without power tonight, 1 week later. But as the crisis continues, we can look back beneath the coating of ice that first day. It was then we found an inner beauty in people that we never saw before, or perhaps never looked for. And above the destruction, the surface of the ice provided beauty as well. Crystal beauty. Beauty recalled by the words of poet Robert Frost. We share that beauty through the lenses of photographers Steve Hayes and Paul DePascal as we bid you a pleasant and hopefully warm good night. When I see birches bend to left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. But swinging doesn't bend them down to stay, as ice storms do. Often you must have seen them loaded with ice on a sunny winter morning after a rain. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many-colored as the stir cracks and raises their enamel. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away. You'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen.
while you watch it.
I think we're on the reaching hot day. We might have to sleeve it.
Hey, let's go! Come here!